everyone, I'm Kalayar Htwe from Department of Archaeology, University of Yangon, Myanmar. In this presentation, I would like to say a little bit about the background of Htwe archaeology concerning some of the earliest excavations and some pioneers of Htwe techniques. After that, there will be the beginning of archaeology in Myanmar, in which I will explain how the archaeology development has appeared. And then archaeological practice in Myanmar will be discussed. In the 18th century, the first excavations were carried out. In the 1765, a mound was excavated on the coast of Peru. In this excavation, the mound's stratigraphy was well described. However, the first scientific excavation in the history of archaeology credited to Thomas Jefferson. Later, he became the third president of the United States. He dug a trench or section across a burial mound in Virginia in 1784. The remarkable thing is his work marks the beginnings of the end of the speculative period, and archaeological deductions from carefully excavated evidence. Europe, extensive excavations were conducted by Richard Gohall, dug into hundreds of burial mounds in southern Britain during the first decade of the 19th century. He successfully divided Htwe monuments into different categories. In the late 19th century, the sound methodology of scientific excavations began to be generally adopted. From that time, a number of archaeologists were known for their different Htwe methods. Some of them are General Augustus Langford Fitzgerald. He organized precise excavations in southern England. He was a pioneer in data recording. Plan sections and exact positions of every object were recorded. The next one is Sir William Flinders Petrie. He was marked for his accurate excavations and his insistence on the collections and descriptions of everything found, as well as on full publication. He also constructed his own techniques of seriations, which he used to bring chronological order in Egypt. The next one is Sir Mortimer Wheeler. He was noted for his notable techniques such as the Greek square method. He is particularly well known for his work at British Fieldwork and also as Director General of Archaeology in India, where he held training school in modern Htwe methods and excavated at important sites such as Harabo, Tassila, Arigamedu, and etc. As a career, he was one of the first archaeologists to employ a team of specialists to analyze artifacts and human remains. He also developed explorations, selections of criteria for ranking the remains of sites chronologically, sections into a proper sequence, stratigraphic excavations, and a multi-day regional survey and dating. Moreover, there are also outstanding women archaeologists in the history of Htwe archaeology. Today, many archaeological theories, methods, and fieldwork reference books are published. Some of them are available on some online libraries. Now, I would like to briefly explain the beginning of archaeology in Myanmar. The first archaeological study can be said to have begun in Myanmar in the 19th century. During the reign of King Bodopaya, approximately 600 stone inscriptions were brought to the capital, Yangon, to make a record of monastic land. Moreover, scholars study them and use data as a basis for investigating the chronicles. And then they also revise old Myanmar chronicles with the help of the stone inscriptions, composed new inscriptions, and wrote a new chronicle. In 1881, Dr. E. Fushma, a police scholar of Yangon College, became the first government archaeologist. He carried out research on the ancient culture of the country, particularly through the study of epigraphic evidence, and wrote many articles and reports on Arakan and Pekan. His research works are valuable not only on Myanmar epigraphy but also on Myanmar archaeology. In 1902, the Burma Archaeological Department was established in Mandalay as a branch of the Archaeological Survey of India to conserve and protect the monuments. They also published their reports in India. Later, they excavated some preliminary test pits of Betano, Hanlin, and Sri Khitra. In 1937, when Myanmar separated from India, the department began a separate office from the branch of the Archaeological Survey of India. During World War II, the staff of the Archaeological Survey of Burma moved from Mandalay to Bagan, where many important artifacts and documents were preserved. Since the 19th century, the stone tools have been found by geologists or collected by colonial administrators, largely in the upper Irrawaddy Valley. Polished stone eggs and bracelets and bronze eggs, bracelets, and rings were brought into foreign museum collections. In 1937-38, the American Southeast Asian expeditions for Aliman studied Ali Chopper and hand axe finds in Myanmar, and they published articles. After Myanmar regained independence in 1948, the department was reformed under the Ministry of Culture and recruited new officers. Some archaeologists were sent to India for training. The earliest trainings were Uando, Myat, and Usaimang. In 1957, the headquarters of the Department of Archaeology was moved to Mandalay to Yangon, leaving a branch office in Mandalay. From the 1960s, there were 3 expeditions, not only to the early urban sites of Betano, Hanlin, Sri Khitra, Myanmar, but also other prehistoric sites. Some prehistoric sites were excavated, such as Medellin Cave, Lepanche Born Neolithic site, Tontaman Iron Age sites. Furthermore, the department looked after the restorations and preservations of ancient monuments and edifices in the various archaeological sites throughout the country. In Myanmar, there are 2 different ministries which conduct archaeology. They are the Department of Archaeology and National Museum under the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Culture, and the other one is the Department of Archaeology under the Ministry of Education. The Department of Archaeology and National Museum manage and conduct all archaeological works in the whole country. Under this department, the Free School of Archaeology gives a postgraduate diploma in Sri Khitra for newly recruited staff and some postgraduate students who are interested in archaeology. The Department of Archaeology under the Ministry of Education is an academic department. There are 4 academic departments, 2 in Yangon and 2 in Mandalay, in which BA and MA courses are given. Postgraduate diploma and PhD degree are available only at the University of Yangon. Of all, I would like to explain about the Department of Archaeology and National Museum. As I mentioned earlier, in 1957, the department reformed and recruited new research officers. From that time to now, their staff are sent abroad for archaeological studies. One of the first projects of the new archaeology department was the excavations of Betano, an early urban site. The excavations were carried out 6 times from 1959 to 1963. 25 sites were excavated by Indian trained archaeologists Uando, Myat, and Usaimang. After Betano excavations, they also excavated other early urban sites, Hanlin. 19 sites were excavated during 5 seasons from 1963 to 1967. At that moment, 43 sites were excavated. And then in Sri Khitra as well, 65 sites were also excavated respectively. These ancient few sites, Vedano, Helen, and Sri Khitra, became one of the World Heritage Sites in 2014. Moreover, the Department of Archaeology excavated other prehistoric and historic sites and looked after the restorations and preservations of ancient monuments and artifacts in various archaeological sites throughout the country. Nowadays, the Department of Archaeology and National Museum collaborate with foreign specialists, nations, and institutions in many archaeological works. The majority of these collaborations are restorations and preservations of ancient monuments and conservations of mural paintings in Peking. In 1975, a powerful 7-magnitude earthquake struck in Peking. Many important stupas and temples were destroyed. At the time, UNESCO became involved in Peking and trained local staff in repair and restoration techniques. Again, in 2016, an earthquake of 6.8 magnitude struck central Myanmar. Over 300 pagodas and temples were damaged by this earthquake. They are still restored by the department and some restorations are carried out by the help of foreign specialists. In 2019, Peking was nominated as a World Heritage Site. In addition, the department of doing research works and field works of ancient sites, study of inscriptions on stone, manuscripts on bells are carried out. And maintenance and renovations of ancient monuments were also implemented. As you see in this photo, there are many prehistoric sites, but the majority are not excavated yet due to the many challenges and limitations of planning. Since a long time ago, the number of international scholars involved in Myanmar archaeological research. Some of them collaborated with the Department of Archaeology and National Museum. Moreover, there are also international research missions. Most of them are doing fieldwork in Myanmar every year concerning their specific research project. Some of them are two primate research groups. One is from Kyoto University, Japan, and the other is from University of Poitiers, France. Stone Age research led by Dr. Bernard, University of Washington. Neolithic, Bronze, and Iron Age research led by Dr. Thomas Oliver Price. Denonai and Maritime Road led by Dr. Berenice Bedina Price. Integrated socio-ecological history for residential botany, agricultural practice, and water management at the medieval Burmese capital of Peking led by Dr. Guys and etc. Maybe you already know some of these specialists who are well known in Southeast Asian archaeology. Now, I would like to talk about academic development. Archaeology was started to be taught as an academic subject at the University of Yangon in 1994. At that time, the department members were recruited from the history department, archaeologists and retired archaeologists from the Ministry of Cultural help in teaching as the visiting professor and lecturer. They share their valuable experience in the class and during field trip. Later, 3 more departments were opened in Dagon University, University of Manali, and Yedanabon University, respectively. At university, archaeology students learn archaeology theoretically, and 15 days fieldwork is compulsory for all students, except first year. But students could not get a chance to excavate it practically. Instead of free walk, they visit and study archaeological sites where archaeologists explain to them the process of free walk, what they find, and their experiences at site and at night study time. Sometimes students go and study some excavations which are conducted by Ministry of Cultural or Foreign Research team. Moreover, some academic members and some students got chance to join in their free walks occasionally. I'm one of these academic members. I joined missions Archaeological from Myanmar since 2015 and French archaeological missions in Peninsula Thailand, Myanmar since 2017 when the mission started to do free work in Myanmar. With the thanks of Dr. Price and Dr. Belina, some academic members and some students could take back in their free works. Firstly, I would like to talk a little bit about Mission Archaeological from Myanmar. The mission started to do research in Myanmar in 2000, after the Yangon Bronze Age site was annexed over 20 years ago. The missions mainly focus on the prehistoric period, especially Neolithic, Bronze, and Iron Age. This maps show the site of which were excavated by Muffin. From the beginning to 2013, the project director was Mr. Jean-Pierre Pocteau, and later Dr. Price led the mission. They published 2 books and many articles in the international peer-reviewed journals. These articles could be found online, for example, ResearchGate, Academia website, etc. The French Time mission in the Upper Time Malay Peninsula focused on the late prehistoric and early historic periods concerning the region's economic and political role in the early maritime age that connected the world to China. These networks also called Maritime Six Route. Dr. Belina has been French missions director since 2005 and started to do free work in Myanmar since 2017. She wrote and edited many books and articles. I hope you already know her. One of her research papers was uploaded on week 1 session 2. As you see in this map, she excavated many archaeological sites in Thailand. In southern Myanmar, Oji and Maliwan area were surveyed and excavated 3 seasons ended 2020. We could not study these sites before because these sites are situated in remote areas and are difficult to access. The preliminary findings were published in peer-reviewed international journals and presented in many conferences and online lectures. Now, I would like to share my archaeometallurgical research work, the Bagan Iron Project, funded by a grant from the National Geographic Society. Our project members are well-known archaeologists and archaeometallurgists in the Southeast Asian region. The kingdom of Bagan was located east bank of Irrawaddy River, was contemporary with Angkor. Over 4 centuries, the Bagan settlements flourished with lots of monasteries, stupas, and temples. Unlike the Angkorian stone buildings traditions, Bagan's monuments were built with bricks. So how then to explain lots of iron production sites to be found between Bagan and Mount Boba? Like Angkor, Bagan's economy was based on rice trade conquest. Therefore, the quality iron was an essential requirement for agriculture and craft too, billet for exchange and weapon for combat. The kingdom of Bagan was known to have 9 regions of rice fields at its height, certainly demanding a considerable amount of iron for digging and cutting implements. The trade of Bagan in raw and finished iron products is at present unknown, but 18th-19th century AD record mentions that the trade of iron ingot increased around mainland Southeast Asia. An essential question is whether the extensive heaps of iron slag and furnace remains within circa 30 kilometers east of Peking related to those combined agricultural, artisanal, commercials, and materials endeavors. The primary objectives of this project is to rapidly and substantially increase our chronological and technological understandings of iron productions in the Bagan area. In 2017, Dr. Price, Dr. Lawal, and I surveyed the iron production locations identified by Dr. Hobson near 20 years ago. These surveys confirmed the preservation state of these sites and selected to excavate the remains around CO, which produce a single mid-second millennium AD date and are closest to Peking. Excavations of 3 iron production sites around the village of CO was carried out by the full team during a 4-week peak season in February 2019. These 3 sites were selected due to the presence of multiple finances or mounds visible on the surface that allow us to reveal chronological as well as spatial differences in iron production. The remains of the furnaces appear as circular or oval-shaped at ground level before excavation. We found, however, that they are actually reticular in plan and flattened out like a belt toward the base. This type of furnace is thought to be unique in Southeast Asia. Each excavation was mapped, recorded, and taken photos for photogrammetry. In the last week of Fieldwork, the excavated assemblage of mineral slag fragments are being sorted, polishing, and analyzed with a handheld HRF by Dr. Pierre Venance. These analyses provide initial grouping of chemical compositions that related to different ore sources used at each site. With the result of handheld HRF analysis, Dr. Stephanie Lawal made multivariate statistical analysis to be able to compare the chemical signatures with each other. In 2019, Samsep samples were analyzed with optical microscopy at the Silavagong University Archaeological Laboratory, and Samsep sample will be analyzed SEMEDS and ICPMS in France. According to the preliminary result of analysis from the 2019 peak season, some signs of chemical signatures defined are very close to other and some are different. The differences could be the expressions of different iron ores. This is something that we will confirm with our laboratory analysis. Comparisons of spectrum morphology, finance visibility, and special organizations between each site suggest the presence of different technical traditions or modifications of one traditions over time. Statistical analysis of these data will define the CO area iron production signatures, which can then be determined against Dr. Lawal's predominantly Cambodian iron artifacts database. Even if we don't identify any much now, it is a first meaningful step in the expedition's complementary regional research programs. In conclusion, the Department of Archaeology and National Museum had excavated many prehistoric and historic sites throughout the country long time ago. The majority of excavations were carried out by using grid scale and long trench techniques. These techniques are applied in archaeological excavations from the 1960s to until now. Sometimes other methods are also used according to the site condition, research focus, collaborated foreign research team, and etc. As you learned in earlier lectures, one of the important things in field archaeology is that we have to record precisely everything in each process. Thank you for your attention. I also thank the Faculty of Archaeology, Silvercon University, for organizing this fantastic free archaeology online course and inviting me to contribute to archaeological practice in Myanmar.